Just before we get cracking with the video today, there are going to be some weird pronunciations in it. I'm doing my best. I'm looking them up where I can. If I screw them up, it's too bad, really. So, throughout history, there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of badass warriors who dedicated their lives to whipping ass. Not all of them get recognized, sadly, but in the video today, we're looking at 10 who you'll probably not find in a history textbook anytime soon, which is a shame, because those history textbooks would be way better if they included these guys. Number 10, Tlahuicol. I looked it up, it's not available, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Hailing from the Tlaxcalan tribe, Tlahuicol was a warrior of legendary status, and we mean that literally. The guy was so huge, it's rumored that other lesser men couldn't even lift the weapons that he used in battle. Though it's not clear how it happened, Tlahuicol somehow ended up living with an Aztec tribe and realized that he could no longer go home since it fraternized with the enemy. He asked the Aztec king for a warrior's death, which he got, and then some. Tlahuicol was ordered to stand on a giant stone platform while 8 of the Aztecs' finest eagle warriors attempted to kill him. He effortlessly slaughtered them all and injured an additional 20 men before he was killed. His heart was then immediately cut from his body. Number 9. Cuauhtemoc. Don't let the story of the previous guy convince you that Aztecs were anyone to be sniffed at. If anyone can sum up the indomitable Aztec spirit, it's Cuauhtemoc, their last emperor. Cuauhtemoc was elected as emperor while the city of Tenochtitlan was being ransacked by Hernan Cortez. Just being in the city when that was happening took huge balls. Upon assuming control of his people, Cuauhtemoc promptly decided to make Cortez's life as difficult as possible by turning his city into an Aztec Stalingrad. Even after his city was racked by starvation, he tried to flee to the countryside to get more soldiers. Even after being captured and tortured, Cuauhtemoc refused to tell Cortez or his men anything. It seems that when you're the last representative of a great race of warrior people, you simply can't flinch or cry on principle. Number 8. Melanchthonus of Korea. Melanchthonus of Korea was an ancient boxer hailing from the area now commonly known as Turkey. Though it's not known if he ever held a sword, what we do know is that he was never once touched by an opponent. This is quite an impressive feat for a guy whose job was essentially being punched in the face. Melanchthonus was the king of slipping punches. His entire tactic essentially revolved around deftly avoiding the blows of his competitors while maintaining an iron defense. In his entire undefeated career as a champion Olympic boxer, Melanchthonus never threw a punch. This is seemingly because he didn't need to, because no one could touch him. Number 7. Miyamoto Musashi. Miyamoto Musashi is without doubt the finest swordsman to have ever lived. What Melanchthonus did with fists, Musashi did with swords. Throughout his life, he was never once defeated in combat. It got to the point where Miyamoto was so good at giving people katana enemas that he just up and stopped using swords altogether, though he didn't stop sword fighting. For the rest of his life, Musashi accepted and roundly defeated all challengers using a simple wooden sword. Musashi split open more heads than 1,000 B-movie gorefests, and he did it all while being a traveling warrior poet. It's pretty cool. Number 6. William Marshall, Knight of Knights. William Marshall, aka the Earl of Pembroke, is remembered by history as being one of the greatest knights to have ever lived. Now, a knight is supposed to exemplify many qualities, but the most important one, by far, was the ability to kill an enemy knight and then steal his stuff. This is something William did over and over again. On his deathbed, the Earl noted to those nearby that he'd bested at least 500 other knights in one-on-one combat. Now, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, sure, but he could have lied about that, and that's a good point, but do remember that this was back in a time when people thought that lying made your penis fall off, so it's probably safe to assume that he wasn't. Besides, questioning his mighty power is likely to earn you a bit of a slap to the mouth when you finally become a ghost, so I wouldn't bother. Number 5. Prince Rupert of the Rhine. Despite being born with a silver spoon in his mouth, more money than you could force a servant to shake a stick at, and a haircut that wouldn't look out of place in a porn star, England's Prince Rupert had only one dream. And that dream was to join the military, which he did at the age of 14. While most of us were still at school, Rupert was gallivanting around Europe, slaughtering Roundheads and capturing whatever parts of England that he damn well felt like. He actually kicked so much ass that his enemies believed he had supernatural powers when it was pretty much just clear that he really liked murder. Number 4. Dula Bhati. Dula Bhati was a Punjabi Rajput warrior of almost legendary stature. Upon discovering that an evil emperor had killed his father and stuffed his skin full of hay, Dula swore revenge. Basically, his life was sort of like an R-rated Disney movie. From the moment he heard of his father's fate, Dula embarked on a lifelong quest to undermine the emperor. He spent years looting the hell out of his cities and distributed all of the wealth he stole among the poor. When the emperor finally managed to corner him, he had to send reinforcements for the first time ever because the resistance from locals was too great. When Dula was executed, he refused to utter a word because, well, screw the emperor. Number 3. Aristodemus. Aristodemus was one of the guys from the movie 300. In the film, he was renamed Dilios, and was the guy who lost his eye and went back to heroically rally the rest of the Spartan army. In reality, he was shunned for refusing to die in battle like a man when he lost his eye due to a crippling infection. So, well, the film got it half right. However, being disgraced lit a fire in his belly that could only be quenched with the lung and brain matter of his enemies. In the Battle of Plataea, Aristodemus became a veritable whirlwind of death when he embarked on a berserker-like suicide charge so ferociously badass that the stubborn Spartans decided to posthumously forgive him and gave him a proper burial. Not bad for a guy with one eye and nothing to lose. Number 2. Flamma. Flamma, aka the Flame, was an ancient Roman gladiator who knew the importance of a great stage name thousands of years before a guy named Dwayne decided it would be cooler to call himself The Rock. Now, the dream of almost every gladiator in history was to earn his freedom, retire, and then throw rocks at poor people. Note the use of almost there, since Flamma only cared about one thing, and that was fame. Flamma earned his freedom 4 times, but he vehemently refused to accept it, purely so that he could keep stabbing people in the torso. Any way you look at it, it takes pretty huge balls to choose potentially being stabbed to death over retirement, so, well, kudos to the Flame. Number 1. Galvarino. Galvarino, in a nutshell, was the Chilean version of Wolverine if Wolverine was fueled by nothing but an intense hatred for everyone who didn't have a gut full of knife wounds and who strapped swords to the stumps where his hands used to be. You see, when he was captured by the Spaniards, they ordered that his hands be cut off so that he could be an example to his people. After Galvarino endured that torture without a word, he was sent back to his people. But this is where history gets a little bit fuzzy. It's rumored that he strapped knives to the stumps and then started knife punching people in the throat like there was no tomorrow. However, despite this approximately being the most awesome thing in the history of humanity, it's very hard to find any official document that backs up this story. Still though, this was a man who had both of his hands chopped off, and when asked what he wanted to do about it, he answered, "Tear them apart with my teeth." Knife hands or not, this is still one of the greatest lines ever uttered. So I really hope you found that video interesting and suitably horrific at the end there. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up below, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got brand new videos just like this every day of the week. If you're looking for more from me, why not check out my other channel called Today I Found Out, where we also do daily videos. That is linked to below. And as always, thank you for watching.